So today we're going to be talking about a storyline that I honestly kind of forgot was even in One Punch Man, but regardless, it is one of the main storylines that has kind of been put on the back burner for now, and I guess it's better late than never, even though it's not really going to be wrapped up for like at least 5 years anyway. But anyway, we're talking about the Mad Cyborg in this video, aka Genos' main plot line to the story. So let me give you a refresher on who this character is. So when Genos was 15 years old, the Mad Cyborg essentially came out of nowhere and destroyed Genos' entire town. I mean, it's implied he destroyed like everything. I mean, the parks, the buildings, the schools, and of course Genos' home, and along with that, Genos' whole family. But quote-unquote miraculously, Genos was able to survive this somehow. So apparently the Mad Cyborg is mad because his brain was damaged during the transplant in his process of becoming a cyborg. And that's pretty much all we know about the Mad Cyborg. But let me also go over the other bits of details that we know about this story. So, coincidentally, Dr. Kuseno had been passing through Genos' town and had found Genos. And this is because he was tracking the Mad Cyborg, because I guess Dr. Kuseno is a scientist of justice, and it just so happens that the Mad Cyborg was on his radar. So we can assume that Genos finding out about the Mad Cyborg's brain damage from his transplant and whatnot was possibly relayed to him by Dr. Kuseno, although this is not really confirmed. But anyway, after this, Genos begged Dr. Kuseno to turn himself into a cyborg in order to become strong enough to defeat the Mad Cyborg one day. So since the reveal of the Mad Cyborg, the story has touched on him every now and then, but mainly just in exposition here and there. And outside of that, there has been no major plot points that have been moving this storyline forward. Meaning that, like I said, it's probably going to be like 5 years before we really get into the meat of this storyline. But aside from that, let's try to figure out who the Mad Cyborg is, because in my opinion, I think it's kind of been in front of our faces this whole time. But before I drop the gauntlet, let's just cross some names off of the list of who the potential candidates for this character could be. So first of all, I think one of the main ones is Drive Knight, and this is because he straight up looks like a cyborg, although it's not confirmed what he exactly is yet. But he also does have that infamous moment with Genos, with the whole, Metal Knight is your enemy thing. But I don't really think Drive Knight is the Mad Cyborg, because Dr. Kuseno would be like, yo, Drive Knight is the Mad Cyborg, bro. You might want to go kill him. Of course, he could be concealing his identity and whatnot, but I really don't think Drive Knight is the Mad Cyborg, so we could just cross him off the list. So the second candidate is Metal Knight, and not necessarily Dr. Bufoy, but he could be tied to the Mad Cyborg somehow. This is kind of likely, I suppose. Also, if we go back to the whole Metal Knight is your enemy thing, maybe Drive Knight knows something about the Mad Cyborg. Maybe he knows that that is tied to Genos' origin, and maybe he knows that Metal Knight had something to do with him. I would say this is maybe like 50-50 at this point, but me personally, I don't think Metal Knight is tied to the Mad Cyborg. So it's also possible that the Mad Cyborg is somehow tied to the mysterious organization. Maybe this is also the case too. I would say it's probably as likely as Metal Knight being tied to the Mad Cyborg. But that being said, I also don't think these guys are affiliated with him somehow. Mainly because I think they are going to have their own storyline, which isn't really going to tie in with the Mad Cyborg storyline. But I could be wrong. But I'm thinking that this is going to go in a different direction, and something else is saved for the organization. And then, of course, there is the possibility that the Mad Cyborg is just the Mad Cyborg, and he is his own unique character. And this is essentially what is at the end of the road in the story for Genos. This is like his final boss of the series. In the final arc, we're probably going to wrap up his storyline. He will confront the Mad Cyborg, maybe defeat him, maybe not. But he'll have some kind of revelation with this character, and maybe we'll have a happy ending. But I don't think that's the case either, although it is possible. So now let's get into what I was talking about earlier with how this could have been in front of our faces the whole time. So I'm just kind of dropping the gauntlet here. This is who I absolutely think the Mad Cyborg is, and it is none other than Genos himself. So there's a few things that lead me to believe that Genos is the Mad Cyborg. So first of all, the whole story that the Mad Cyborg's origin and Genos' origin comes from is a little fishy, and it doesn't really add up. So, apparently the Mad Cyborg showed up randomly and destroyed Genos' entire town and killed his family, but, somehow Genos survived this, and he was only 15 years old. It's also stated that he miraculously survived this. So, that's a little fishy. Why did he live? Why did everyone else die, but he was the only one to survive this somehow? Also, the fact that Dr. Kuseno just coincidentally and conveniently showed up there and was able to save Genos from this. Also to mention that he was tracking the Mad Cyborg all along. And also added to the fact that Genos requested to become a cyborg for some reason in order to combat the Mad Cyborg. Doesn't this seem a little counterproductive? Also, since we know that in the world of One Punch Man, you can become strong through training. And Genos is 15 years old at this point, so he's definitely aware that training exists. So why would he want to become a cyborg? So what I think actually happened was Genos is actually the one whose brain was damaged during his transplant into becoming a cyborg. And I guess this means that Genos is possibly Dr. Kuseno's son, or somehow related to him. And maybe Dr. Kuseno was experimenting on him, or maybe Dr. Kuseno randomly found Genos and stole him from his family in order to use him as a cyborg test subject. This would also mean that Dr. Kuseno is a bad guy after all, which is a possibility as well. But this would mean that Genos was the one who destroyed his entire town, or just a town in general. We don't really know if this was actually Genos' town, if this theory is true. And we don't know if he actually even had a family to begin with, but it's possible that if he did, he murdered his own family, which is dark and sad. But like I've been saying, if you have followed my channel, I do think Genos' character arc is going to be very sad, and this is one of the reasons why. But regardless, I think this means that Genos is a result of a failed experiment, or an experiment gone wrong from Dr. Kuseno, which eventually led Dr. Kuseno to somehow deactivate Genos and rebuild him into the good Genos that we see now. Or it's possible that that was Dr. Kuseno's goal all along, to make this justice cyborg that he wanted to fight for him, but the transplant damaged his brain somehow, and we got the whole big accident where he destroyed the town and whatnot as an end result. But regardless, it's very likely that Dr. Kuseno implanted false memories of the Mad Cyborg into Genos in order to essentially give him motivation to become stronger, to chase after this ghost, as well as having a never-ending quest for revenge and taking the blame off of himself in the process. And I don't think this theory is too outrageous, considering that this is already a narrative in the series Westworld, because we know in that series that the hosts, or the AI robots within the Westworld itself, are implanted with false memories that they themselves believe to be factually true. And this is in order to give them motivation and to bolster their personalities overall. So that's pretty much it for the theory, but at this point I want to go into some webcomic spoiler stuff, because they do kind of touch on the Mad Cyborg later on, and I just want to use some of that info to solidify what I'm talking about here. But regardless, if you don't want to know what's going to happen in this story, I suggest you check out now. So later on in the Neo Heroes arc, Saitama is talking to Genos, and he says, Genos, why did you want to become strong in the first place? Wasn't it for revenge? And Genos is like, yeah, it was to defeat the unidentified, quote-unquote, unidentified Mad Cyborg. He took everything from me. And Saitama's like, are you even sure the Mad Cyborg is still alive? It's possible that someone defeated him already. I mean, maybe even I defeated him. And Genos is like, no, I haven't been able to confirm that he has been defeated yet, at least from the data that I have received from the Hero Association. But the records from that time of the event remain, and a villainous monster of his description is registered. So there's a few things that we can take away from this exchange here. So first of all, we do know that the Mad Cyborg incident did happen. I mean, evidently, since the Hero Association does have record of it, but they also have a description of the monster. And, you know, since he is unidentified, which Genos says earlier, we can assume that he doesn't really know what he looks like or who he is or anything like this. So this could also bolster the theory that, you know, Genos is the Mad Cyborg, and he was probably the one who was described in these events, since, you know, Genos is a cyborg after all. But the ominous words that Saitama is putting forth here is possibly letting us know, at least through one's narration, that the Mad Cyborg actually doesn't exist, and maybe it is Genos. Maybe Genos is just chasing a ghost of himself, which are false memories implanted. Or this could be us seeing the other side of the coin, and maybe the Mad Cyborg does actually exist, and this is just reaffirming that this is a storyline that might come to fruition, meaning that Genos might actually run into this guy at the end of the series and wind up fighting him. Or hell, maybe even at the end of this arc. But, you know, like I've said in this video multiple times already, we're probably not going to find out for the next 5 years. Hell, maybe even 10 years. But in the end, we will eventually find out the truth behind this character. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this theory. Let me know what you think about the Mad Cyborg. Who do you think he is? You know, is he Jet Nice Guy all along? You know, that's a possibility, I suppose. But if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It starts at $2, and it gives you access to a Q&A. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.